What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today, doing the what's next on Erislandy Lara, the current WBA regular middleweight champion of the world at 160 pounds. He's the secondary champ there as the WBA continues to try to consolidate their titles. Middleweight is one of the divisions that still has a second champion. In Lara, the official champion is Triple G Gennady Golovkin. He's the super champion right now, and also the unified champ as he holds two belts. Lara returned to action on the Gervonta Davis-Rolando Romero undercard. He fought in a co-feature against Spike O'Sullivan, where he pretty much broke down O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan started off okay, but Lara just broke him down and beat him up and stopped him in the 8th round of that fight as he holds on to his world title. That was his first successful defense of his secondary belt. And now the big question is, what's next for Erislandy Lara following that win? Well, I'm sure a lot of people want to see the WBA mandate him to fight Triple G. Well, it's just not going to happen right away. That's the thing is, first off, it's fine for Lara. And if you're a fan of Lara, you're used to the fact that this guy isn't very active. He falls under the PBC rule hardcore, where they only fight twice a year, about every 6 months at most. And Lara fights even less than that. You know, I mean, his time in between fights is a lot. His fights, unless it's a big fight, which he doesn't have a lot of those, Lara's only, you know, you're hearing about his fights about a month out, you know, and right now we just don't know what's going to happen. Well, but we're going to run through the top 10 and see what could be possible for Lara at this stage. I think he's 39, so he really wants to try to, you know, get himself into a decent fight, and it's just amazing to me. He's 38, actually. It's amazing to me that, you know, even at this age, he's an avoided fighter, even against PBC guys in his own division. But 1 second, as we'll get rolling through the top 10 and see what's possibly coming up for the reigning regular champion at middleweight. So we start with Triple G Gennady Golovkin. Again, I doubt this fight happens for a couple reasons. If Triple G shocks the world and beats Canelo in their 3rd fight in September, Triple G's probably staying at 168 after that. He'd be the undisputed super middleweight champ. He's probably staying at 168. But if he loses, as most expect him to do, I don't know, depending on how he loses, I don't know if he comes back down and fights right away, especially against mandatory opponents. However, Erislandy Lara is a name, and Triple G has 2 mandatories due. He would have Lara, the WBA, if they order the fight, which I think they will after the Canelo Triple G fight is done, and especially if Triple G loses. And then there's the Esquiva Falcao, an undefeated Brazilian contender in the IBF. Now, I would be very surprised at Triple G's age if he would fight an untested, unproven Falcao over a 38, 39-year-old Lara next to determine who's the official WBA champion. So I think there's a chance from that stance, if Triple G decides to continue and come back down, I could see him take it on, especially if Triple G has a strong performance against Canelo, but he loses convincingly still. I think it's possible Triple G says, fuck it, I made the money, I lost the 3rd fight, whatever, I'm moving back down to middleweight, and I think it's possible he fights Lara then, but I really think it's less than 50% the chances of that happening, so I'm going to say no. Next, Demetrius Andrade, the undefeated WBO champion. These 2 guys couldn't get a fight done earlier on. They're not going to get a fight done now. Unless Andrade joins the PBC and both guys say, fuck it, they want to fight, then I can see it happen. But I honestly believe that Andrade is probably going to pursue Canelo at 168, and I don't see him staying at 160. And I'm not sure Lara's going to want that fight either, when there's other possible fights in the PBC that maybe could be made in his future, especially if he leverages it out and becomes a full champion. Does he want to fight? Of course, he might want to unify belts, but does he want to fight a guy like Andre in a unification bout. I'm just saying there might be other better opportunities like the Charlo brothers. Now, speaking of Jamal Charlo, I don't think this fight happens, but because I think Charlo's going to give up his belt to move up to 168. But the chances that it could happen are there, and I'll tell you what. If Charlo gets through Sulecki, which most think he will, myself included, and he's still waiting around for Canelo, because say Canelo goes after Dimitri Bivol in a rematch after Triple G, which is very likely, I think there's a good chance that Jamal Charlo stays at 160, and if Erislandy Lara is upgraded to the full WBA champion, because Triple G gives up that belt after getting ordered to fight Lara and doesn't fight Lara, so Lara gets upgraded, I very much think that would be enough for Charlo to say, you know what, I'll fight Lara now in a unification bout. I can beat him, he's an older fighter, and he's still got a name, I'll fight him. So I think in that instance that Charlo is very, very possible. Now the younger brother Jermell, who could be coming up to middleweight, if he does, I think he's going to have to claim the WBC title and beat somebody before Lara. But I do think that the younger Charlo could fight him in the future. It's possible. Next up is Jaime Munguia, and another fight that is not likely to happen. Munguia, Golden Boy, working with PBC, unless it's a mandatory fight, which it wouldn't be, there's no chance, so I'm going to say no. You got Janabek Alimkhanuly. Not going to happen. Alimkhanuly is either going to fight Demetrius Andrade, or he's going to fight the next highest available contender in the WBO, defend his belt against them. Plus, this is top rank working with the PBC, so unless it's a mandatory fight, and it's not, it will not happen next. Ryota Murata, the former WBA champion. I guess it's possible if Lara doesn't get one of the top 2 or 3 contenders to fight. I think Murata's sitting there at number 4 in the WBA, but I really think it's less likely. Ryota Murata still has ties with the PBC. He's coming off a bad loss to Triple G. Well, not a bad loss, but he got stopped. And I just don't think it's possible these two guys lock horns. Chris Eubank Jr. Eubank is the number 1 contender in the WBA. So I believe that the WBA, while they're waiting around for Triple G, could order Lara and Eubank to fight next. I think it's good for both guys. I think it's a fight both guys should take. It's a step up for both guys and what they've been doing, because they're both kind of avoided depending on the fights that that they want. So fighting each other would make a lot of sense. Right now, I'm not so sure, and again, it depends on if the WBA orders the fight before Triple G and Canelo happen and Triple G gives up the belt. Will the WBA order Lara to fight the highest rated contender, which is Eubank? Then I think that fight will happen in the second half of the year. So it is very possible for that one. Carlos Adames. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight gets ordered, but again, it really depends on what the two Charlo brothers do. If Jamal gets through Sulecki and Munguia isn't available and he's waiting around for Canelo, and depending on what happens with Lara and the WBA belt, Charlo might fight Adames. But Adames is a PBC guy. So why not Adames versus Lara? Especially if Lara's in an optional mode. It depends. The fight's possible if Lara's in an optional mode. I don't think it's possible if Lara's next fight is a mandatory fight. Either him fighting Triple G or Lara fighting the next highest available contender, which is not Carlos Adames. But again, because they're both at the PBC, it is possible to happen. The last couple guys in the division, Sergey Derevyanchenko, another PBC guy. I wouldn't be surprised if Derevyanchenko got ordered to fight against Erislandy Lara. I really wouldn't be surprised by that. He's been fighting a lot of guys, in the PBC, and he's been fighting a lot of top tier fighters. And I wouldn't be surprised that if Lara can't get another guy to fight him and he's in optional mode, then I wouldn't be surprised if he took on Derevyanchenko in the second half of the year. And then finally, rounding it all out, well, Liam Williams is no longer a top 10 guy, so I doubt Liam, that fight will be possible, especially with them on different networks. But, there's just a lot of options and things that need to happen before Lara decides his next fight. Again, I really don't think we're going to know anything until at least October, when the WBA decides to order the fight or not, and then we're going to see what happens after that. I really think possibilities, though, for Lara are Triple G. I think is a slight possibility. I think a unification against Jamal Charlo is I think there's the chances of that are a little bit better than the Triple G. And then Chris Eubank Jr. I think it's a possibility if the WBA orders that fight, because he's the #1 contender. So a lot of moving pieces here, a lot of things that could happen. But that's the what's next on Erislandy Lara, the WBA regular champion at 160 pounds middleweight. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.